want to give our viewing audience an example of what you're saying. So you told me about the sermon you preached yesterday. So show us and talk about the sermon, and then come down in the indicative mood so that the listener, the viewer, would be able to really receive what you're saying.
Yesterday was one of the happiest moments of my life because it was, now get what I'm gonna say, it wasn't the celebration of anybody else's thing but me lasting 50 years. It was a personal victory. I didn't die with surgeries and other things that have happened. I didn't die. I buried on an average of 200 and some people every year during the pandemic. Wow. And I didn't die. I wasn't one of them. Amid everything that has happened and transpired, I lived. And I lived to see a major moment. I was wondering, what will I preach on this anniversary? And I heard the words of C.A.W. Clark. You remember that legend.
Mm-hmm. Of course I do.
I was a young preacher when he had preached 50 years. I was a young pastor. So 50 years was so way in the distance. And he preached, after 50 years, what shall I preach? Something to that effect. Right. And I remember thinking to myself, after 50 years, what am I going to preach? Am I irrelevant now? Is my mode of preaching, my desire for what I want folk to get out of step with what folk want? Am I serving a meal at a restaurant when folk want to go across town to just get something quick and fast? So what do I preach now? Spent all these years of first loving the Lord, then secondly, inquiring to be critical in my understanding of a text, to present what would be the best that could help folk make their own decisions about God. And now I'm in the late afternoon of life. Yes. And I don't see texts the same way. I see them almost like I did when I started. You know, I've almost gone full circle. So what do I preach? And that word from Corinthians, when Paul says to the church at Corinth, when he's trying to deal with them and their factions, he says, remember when I came to you, I didn't come with high, eloquent words or anything. I just came to you with Jesus Christ and him crucified. Yeah. And I distilled everything down to what shall I preach going forward? In this, probably the last lap around the race. What shall I preach? Jesus Christ and him crucified. Why? Because he is the Savior of the world. Yeah. Why? Because he is the manifestation of the power of God. He is change. But then the third one, Dr. Crawford, I can see him sitting there, smiling in his own way as we would write those sermons, the indicative mood. Because one day, he's coming back. One day, no matter how we see this reality, it will end and a new one will begin. This is never and never will be the end. It may end, but it won't be the end for us. And we don't hear that anymore. Yeah. That preaching is lost to what we can get right now. That's right. But after you get right now, what's your indicative mood? And what do you hope? I hope that one day I shall see him as he is and hear him say, well done. If that is the end of this chapter, I know the next chapter will be more than glorious.
Wow, wow. Thank you.